talk a lot about building an empire, but I haven't fully explained what that actually means. So, this episode is not a rebrand, it's not a launch, it's not a pitch, it's an orientation. Today, we're going to be talking about what I'm building, why I'm building it, and what's realistic for me right now in this season of my life. So, welcome to the empire. Hello, my beautiful entrepreneurs. My name is Tabitha Bear, and this is A Hot Mess Builds an Empire. I have absolutely no idea what it is that I'm doing. I really don't. And I warn you at the beginning of every episode that I have no idea what it is that I'm doing. But I'm doing it with the energy of someone who has tripped and is making a career out of the fall. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about my empire. And that is Tabitha Bear Studios and everything that it encompasses. We're also going to be talking about like what my pillars are, what my goals are, what my pros and cons are, and what my bandwidth actually is per thing. And I think it's really important to be realistic about everything you have going on in your business. And that's why I'm going to break down this episode per pillar that way, because I think it's really helpful to see like, here's someone else who's trying to build something and here's what they're going through, both traditional full-time job wise or why they have time on their hands and stuff like that. So yeah, let's dive into this. So what do I mean when I say empire, right? Like, it's not just one of those things where the sun never sets on the empire. No, no, no. When I say empire, I'm talking about I do hustle and grind as much as I can, but it's not hustle culture. It's just doing what I can for right now to make it sustainable, right? But I know that there's no overnight success with this. This is long term. This is meant to be my legacy. And I want it to be interconnected storytelling spaces. I want it to be about community. I'm really starting to focus on sustainability over, sustainability over burnout. And this is about values driven work. So that's what I mean when I say empire. That is not a set in stone definition. Other people refer to their companies or their multiple brands as their empire, and it can mean something completely different. Like, there are some people who, this is my empire and it's my goal is to have 100 YouTube channels, right? Like, everybody is different in how they approach it, but that is what having my empire means to me. Before we get started on the different pillars that create my business, make up my business, I want to have like sort of a reality check about everything. So I do have a traditional full-time job. I work at least 50 hours a week. At my job, it's 4 days a week, but there's somewhere between 12 and 13 hours that I'm there. And I also have a 1 hour commute one way. So I drive 2 hours every single day that I work. So I'm really not home for more like 15 hours. So on those days, it's actually very difficult for me to do anything other than sleep and eat when I get home. So a lot of my time is my 3 days off where I get stuff done. My full-time job funds not only my lifestyle, my mortgage, my bills, everything like that, right? But it funds everything that I'm paying for this business. It includes my Adobe Suite, my email, whatever. Yeah, and so that's why it's really important for me to maintain a certain income, because not only is America like stupid expensive right now, but I have things going on in my life like any other human does that I need to pay for. I have responsibilities that I need to pay for, and I can't just give up on those responsibilities and take a leap of faith into a business that isn't 100% ready for me to do that yet. And that's just the truth of it. The other thing that's super right now, I don't know, I was going to say super annoying, but sad and realistic, is that I'm suffering from a pretty bad head injury from the car accident. I have talked about it a couple times in my videos if you've been following along. My first video is actually about the car accident. So I'm just to be super real with you right now, like I'm having a really hard time reading. So there are certain aspects of my business that required script writing and storytelling and writing things down, and I can't right now. Yeah, like I'm in cognitive therapy. I'm seeing a neuro-ophthalmologist, and I'm seeing a physical therapist for the whiplash that impacted my neck. So there are things that are really difficult for me right now, but this YouTube series, although you'll see cuts while I take a minute to kind of regroup, everything is riff. So everything is just like, I have a couple bullet points written down, and the rest is just me talking about what it is that I want to talk about. And that's easier, but I lose my train of thought pretty quickly, or like I forget what it is that I was talking about, and I do have to sort of go back, which normally I don't have to do that. But that's just the nature of the beast right now. So because of my head injury, I'm out of work and I'm not allowed to drive, but my capacity is very limited. And reading is very difficult for me, and writing long scripts is very difficult for me, and doing the research for what it is that I do is very difficult for me. So it's my mindset is there, and I want to be consistent, so I'm trying to show up consistently for YouTube. But the reality is I'm having a difficult time on the back end with a lot of things because my vision blurs. It doesn't go double, but it blurs a lot, or I get the tunnel vision where everything is dark around me except like a pinhole of vision, like in the distance. So yeah, that's just the reality. But I want to share that with you because I think there's just kind of this thing where it's like, oh, she has a lot of time on her hands. She must be making a lot of money. I don't make a lot of money. I don't have a lot of time on my hands, but as of right now, I have time on my hands, but having a difficult time with the eyeballs. So, but there you go. I'm sure there are things you're going through. I'm sure there are things that are impacting you from being able to let your business thrive to its full potential. And I just want to set that reality there right now that's where I'm at. This is where I'm at as of today. And we're going to keep rolling with this episode. But I hope that there's some understanding out there for what it is I'm about to share. And just kind of the last thing I do want to share about the reality check is sort of the double-edged sword that a lot of us deal with when we have a traditional full-time job and also want to start our own business is you need time and money, right? So your time is limited because you're working a traditional full-time job, but your business can't make money without more time. So it's just one of those things where like which stab wound do you want to tend to first, right? Like it sucks. And I think it's just really important that I understand. And there are plenty of other entrepreneurs out there that totally get this. It's how a lot of people have started, but don't give up. So that's what helped bring a lot of other people to the other side is that they didn't give up, no matter how tired they are. So these are the 3 pillars of Tabitha Bear Studios right now. World Her Story, Adventures of an Entrepreneur, and Myths and Miles. So I'm going to go through each of them and just kind of break down what each of them are and what my goals for them are. And I'm going to talk about my bandwidth and what is realistic for me right now and what is not. So for those of you who are like, I haven't seen you post on World Her Story in a while, you're about to find out why. For those of you who don't know, World Her Story is a trademark brand, and I discuss lesser known women in history. It started as a podcast idea, and it's just kind of been growing in the back of my brain as to what it is I actually want to do with this. So it started as just a podcast idea, and now it's turning into I have a Substack for it, and eventually what I would really like to have for it, like my biggest goal for World Her Story right now, is to create a circle community around World Her Story. And I would love to have it where we connect over women's history, especially lesser known women in history, where we we are able to discuss together just kind of the impact these women have had and how we can continue sharing them out into the world. And I would love to have monthly discussions with other historians that their focus is on women in history or lesser known women in history, and have them featured each month, like maybe do 2 or 3 talks per month that people part of my circle community would have access to, and we can continue to discuss about women in history and have like a monthly book club. And there's just a lot in my brain about the circle community, and I would love to make that happen. And World Her Story has so much potential. Like, it did so well when I was really consistent with it. It went from a couple of people on Threads to 6,000 people on Threads or something, or close to 6,000 people on Threads. And it still gets listens all the time. It's just that the cons are pretty intense. So it requires a lot of time. It requires a lot of reading and a lot of research and a lot of prep and a lot of scripting. And it also requires like interpretation of history, which I think is really important to just touch on for a second. But yeah, it's a lot. And right now, even though I have time, I just do not have the bandwidth to give my all to that for World Her Story. My goal is to hire someone to be a research assistant for World Her Story when I start seeing better revenue for Tabitha Bear Studios. A portion of that will go to a research assistant to help me, because there's so much that I want to do with World Her Story. I can't be the researcher. I can't. It took me too long. And I'm not a professional researcher, right? Like, I'm doing my best to study what I can in school, but yeah, like it's not something I enjoy doing, so I don't like the researching aspect, right? Like, it's fun when you find the stuff. It's fun when you go through like gossip columns from like the 1700s in France, right? And you can just sort of read like what was gossip and scandalous then, and it's hilarious. But like, there are some things where it's just like you spend days looking for something, months looking for something, and you turn up with nothing. So it's a very frustrating thing, and I can't say I'm passionate about it. What I am passionate about is teaching women about world history, women's history, and engaging with other people about women's history. So that is why I will hire a research assistant, because it'll save me so much time in the future. So that's another goal that I have for World Her Story. So let's talk about Adventures of an Entrepreneur, which A Hot Mess Builds an Empire is under. It's a series under Adventures of an Entrepreneur. So currently it is a podcast and a YouTube series. This one is probably my most honest and raw version of storytelling for Tabitha Bear Studios, because I'm just riffing it. I'm just telling you what it is that I have going on, and it's entrepreneurship real time. I'm not sitting here fluffing anything. I'm not sitting here saying I have overnight success. I don't. But I'm sharing my story as I go, and I think that's really important for other people to see like what it is that you have going on as an entrepreneur. So my goals for Adventures of an Entrepreneur are actually a little more, they're still pretty heavy, because I think they're heavy, but they're more realistic for me right now, and they're a little more simpler than World Her Story. So my goals are to normalize starting and restarting and being new at something and figuring it out. That's my goal, for you to walk away from Adventures of an Entrepreneur or Hot Mess Builds an Empire, however you look at this, and just go like, wow, I can be new at something, and that's fine. Like, if you walk away going, she's new at it, and look at her, she's making it work and she's posting about it on YouTube, I want you to walk away going like, well, I can be new at something. I can restart something. I have restarted Tabitha Bear Studios so many times to the point where now it's just an art form. It's just something that I do. Another goal I have for Adventures of an Entrepreneur is building an entrepreneurial community, especially with beginner entrepreneurs. And I think that's something that is very hard to find. You may gravitate towards certain coaches or people that you think are successful in business, or personalities that you like on Instagram and stuff like that. But I've yet to really see sorry, my eyes are really bothering me today. Sorry. I've yet to really see a community that devotes its time to being about beginner entrepreneurs and consistently showing up for them, because I have seen communities start out as for beginners, but then that person did really well and they leveled up to something different. And I think Adventures of an Entrepreneur will always be about day one entrepreneurs, and I want to keep it that way. Am I going to share as I move along? Absolutely. But I'm going to tailor it to day ones and how I got here in the process and what things mean and what things are, and maybe how you can repeat my success if I get any. So the pros for Adventures of an Entrepreneur right now are that the YouTube series is very easy for me because it doesn't require so much prep like everything else that I have does. And it's easier for me to riff instead of reading scripts. So my Adventures of an Entrepreneur podcast is on a slight pause right now until I get better with reading the scripts and writing the scripts. But A Hot Mess Builds an Empire is a series that is meant to be relatable and unhinged in its own time and raw and honest about entrepreneurship. And that's easy for me to talk about because I've been doing this for 10 years now. So one of the cons of Adventures of an Entrepreneur is I didn't start this. I've had this idea for forever, and I didn't start it because I thought that I had to be successful to talk about entrepreneurship. And I delayed because of self-doubt. But I have, on January 1st, my business will turn 10. And I've done so much starting and restarting and being new at things and starting again that I have so much that I can share, that I think what it is that I can share is very valuable. And I think it would be helpful to somebody else who might just be starting out or might be restarting or starting again or figuring it out and whatever. And I just don't want to see other people get delayed because of self-doubt like I did. The other con is that this does require being in front of the camera, which I'm not good at and I'm trying to be better about, and being vulnerable. So talking about things like the fact that I'm in cognitive therapy of all things, and being consistent. I committed to posting every day on this YouTube series, and I've been doing it for 2 weeks now, and I've showed up every day so far. I can't believe it, quite frankly, but I'm really proud of myself, and I'm going to continue to show up, and I'm going to continue to be vulnerable, even if it feels really weird, especially because I'm not confident in front of the camera. So here we are, doing it. So the bandwidth for this particular brand, pillar, whatever you want to call it, it's easier. It's a little more flexible with being able to take breaks in between, my brain needing to sort of process and catch up right now. It's easier to just kind of skim over some bullet points and riff off of those. And it's just a little easier on me capacity wise in my brain. So that is why Adventures of an Entrepreneur is getting my attention right now. Mostly A Hot Mess Builds an Empire is getting my attention right now, is because of what it is that I need to be accessible to me. Oh, myths and miles. Myths and Miles is my baby, and it's the newest, most recent addition to the pillars of Tabitha Bear Studios, but there's so much that I want to give to it, but it is the slowest moving of all of the pillars that I have as part of my overall empire. And here's why. Myths and Miles is so niche. It is about folklore and myths from around the world and about storytelling. And it is very slow moving, right? Like some people are like, oh, myths from around the world, that sounds really cool. Until you follow me and you see that like there's not much about it, right? Like I do post consistently to Tabitha Bear, well, at Tabitha.bear on Instagram. And I've been on talking about like, what am I talking about right now? Oh, writing tips. I'm talking about writing tips right now. And it's just old content that I filmed both in Vietnam and when I got home before the accident. So I'm running out of content. I have to make more. But um yeah, that's where we're at with that. It's so niche. It's really slow moving, but it is beautiful. And I have so many amazing goals for this about like connection and storytelling where I want to host storytelling retreats and workshops and stuff like that that have a focus on a myth. And I take somewhere, a group of people somewhere, and it's just kind of like, hey, we're in Vietnam and we're going to be talking about the creation myth of the Vietnamese people this round. And we're going to use that as inspiration for a fantasy story, something like that. Like just beautiful things that can come from Myths and Miles, but it's a lot of work and it's a big emotional load because I care so much about it. So the pros about Myths and Miles is that it is like just so deeply aligned with my creative vision. It is. It's like the most creative part of me, like in terms of my business. That's where my imagination goes wild, right? Is like, okay, so I look at things and I build products and I have ideas for this and I have ideas for that, but Myths and Miles is really where I start to get a little crazy with my imagination, where it's just like, let's talk about, you know, this myth and let's dive into this myth and let's do something with this myth and this is crazy and what if this happened and what if that happened, and it really brings out the fantasy and things, right? And that's what I love so much about it, is it kind of almost makes me feel like a kid again. And I think that's something that's really important to touch on, is like if something makes you giddy in your business, oh my gosh, please do something to make it stay. Like if you can, like, so I have addressed the reality that the con of this business is that it is slow moving. And my bandwidth for it right now is just non-existent. Of the three things, World Her Story, Adventures of an Entrepreneur, and Myths and Miles, I have the least amount of bandwidth for Myths and Miles right now. And that's because my head injury, for one, the amount of writing and processing and imagination that it takes for that right now, I don't have the capacity for it. But three, it's very emotionally involved. I'm easily frustrated and irritable right now and overly emotional. So it's really difficult to give myself into that when my emotions are kind of not in my control at this time. And I need to be able to be of sound mind when I'm making decisions or when I'm doing something, regardless of letting my creativity flow. I need to be of sound mind, right? Like it makes sense. So Myths and Miles is 100% on the back burner. Now, if you have visited my Stan store, you'll see that I have an application process for Myths and Miles retreat. By all means, fill it out if you're interested in joining our storytelling retreat. If I have enough people sign up, I'll still do it. It'll be later next year in 2026. And it'll either be in Phuket or Vietnam or both, depending on how many people sign up. But yeah, it's just, I would love to give everything to Myths and Miles right now, but I can't. And I would love to give exactly 33.3 repeating percent to each, brand of Tabitha Bear Studios, but I cannot. And when you have multiple parts to your business, like I do, it's really important to look at it and go, not all three of these things can move at the same speed. You are one fucking person. You're one person. What are you going to get done with all three things? So just acknowledge that you are one person and you are allowed to have all these ideas, but you are also allowed to go, you know what? I don't have the bandwidth for all these ideas. I just don't. So the season that I'm in for the next couple months is looking at what is accessible to me right now, what I can handle right now, what is sustainable for me right now. And right now it's this YouTube series, A Hot Mess Builds an Empire. And that's okay. That's just where I am and where we are. And everything else will come in time, right? Like everything else will start to pick back up. But I need to heal. And I need to let that happen. I do. As annoying as it is, I need to let that happen. And I think the point of this video is to kind of share like the multiple things that I have going on with my business, but also like, as I said before with the reality check, I want people to understand that like, I don't think I'm lazy and I don't think I'm behind and I don't think that I'm failing. I think that I'm being realistic and doing what I can within my constraints. And I want you to look at your business. Like if you feel like you're failing and behind because it's not successful, not making money, whatever, what have you, I want you to look at your situation as objectively as possible, right? Like don't beat yourself up because you're working a traditional full-time job and you want to be an entrepreneur, because I did that for years. Like, why did I make this decision? Why am I doing this? I just made the wrong decision for myself and look where I am now, right? Like if you constantly bring yourself down about the fact that you're working a traditional full-time job, you're just going to create like a really bad relationship with yourself about your business. So if your situation right now is a traditional full-time job, then that's your situation. Do what you can within your constraints. But be honest about your constraints, right? Like don't like, well, I think I might be able to push myself to not sleep and do more. No. You need your rest. You need your rest. But make sure you just go like, okay, my bandwidth is that for me, my days off are Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Every Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, I can give myself 8 to 12 hours worth of knocking shit out and try to be ahead of the curve, right? So what I want you to understand too is what this empire is not. This empire is not about going viral. I've never gone viral, so I just don't worry about going viral. I don't. It's not about overnight success, and it's not about burnout. And the burnout one was really tricky to learn because I just thought like you grind and you hustle and you burn out, and that's the whole shebang of being an entrepreneur, a creative entrepreneur. You burn out, right? You burn out and fake it till you make it kind of thing. And no, you need to build sustainability and you need to be sustained as well as part of that sustainability. So don't burn yourself out. Push yourself, right? Like I think there's something good about pushing yourself and challenging yourself and like, hey, you know what? I said I was going to stop at 9, but I'm almost done with this thing. I just need 15 more minutes. Go the 15 minutes, right? Like still get your rest, still do what's sustainable for your business, but sustain yourself as well. That was a tricky one to learn, but that's what this empire is not. It's not overnight success. Trust me, it is not overnight success here at A Hot Mess Builds an Empire. So I wanted to share this video because this is just my business and this is the vision. These are the goals. This is the reality of my situation, and this is just kind of where we're at right now here in December 2025. I hope you enjoyed this video. I don't really have like a lot of takeaways from it other than like this was just an introduction to what it is that I do. I talk a lot about my empire. I talk a lot about my business. But I've never shared what my business is or what my business does or who I am or what I do like on a more specific level. And that is I own a multimedia studio. I love multimedia. I love trying different platforms and taking my content on those different platforms and sharing stories about women from around the world, myths from around the world, and talking about entrepreneurship, especially for new entrepreneurs. And this series, A Hot Mess Builds an Empire, is new to the Tabitha Bear Studios empire. It really is. It's like the newest thing that I have going on. But it was for me to fill my time with something to do in an accessible form for me right now, and also to try to learn how to figure out YouTube and to see if I can do well at YouTube and do long form content. So we'll see how that goes. I will continue to share like what it is that I'm doing on YouTube and how it's going, and provide takeaways if I can. Um, but that's about my business. And thank you so much for watching this video. If you got to this point, I know this is a longer one. So thank you if you got here to the end. Truly, this is the end of the video. But please like it, please subscribe, and I will see you here tomorrow. Tomorrow. Because I'm being consistent. I'm being good. Being a good girl, being consistent. Okay, I'm done.